I don't know. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to a few of you. Welcome to today's community briefing. My name is Gregory Sneed, and we've got Crystal Mitchell, Robin Billups, and Stephen Turner. Crystal is remote today. She is doing her biz camp, and she's got students. They are going through a competition judging session momentarily, so she will be joining us. And well, she's already joined us, but she'll be leaving us soon. And so I'm gonna switch it over to you, Crystal, right now, so you can say your wonderful greetings and blessings, and then we'll keep going. How about that?
All righty, fantastic. Thank you, Greg. Yes, you guys know every summer I do my stretch with the children for 2 months. And so this is the last day. I've had to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning for the last 60 days. And that's not an easy task for a person that works late at night. But I want to welcome you to the community briefing. My name is Crystal Mitchell. I'm the co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, as well as the inspiration and I guess founder for the community briefing. This platform was created so that we would meet our leaders and stakeholders, people that are doing things within our community, so we can close the silos that we operate in. It was an inspiration during the pandemic to make sure we knew where all the money was and how we could keep our businesses solvent during that time. So, and it just has a mind of its own, and it just kept moving on. And we have a fantastic team, Mr. Gregory Sneed, Ms. Robin Billups, and we're so happy to have her back, and Mr. Stephen Turner. So it's awesome. We got a fantastic guest. This Mr. Matthew Gates is he is a hard worker and an inspiration, and we connected. And so I'm thankful that you are here today, Matthew. I've heard you on the Business Zone, so I kind of know what you're going to do, but I will catch it afterwards. I am going to be leaving shortly, guys, so that I can go and help these kids finish up their summer program. And check out our Facebook page. We'll have pictures of all of the winners and support them and give them all of your support and wise tips about being small business owners, because you know that ain't the easy thing. So with that, Greg, I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
And I'm gonna kick it over to Robin. Robin, another one of our hosts here on the community briefing, and we're glad to have Robin join us today. Robin.
Good day, everybody. Yes, I'm glad to be back. I do need to make my pronouncement again this week. My non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is in remission. And so, yes, I'm back. The Lord is in the blessing business, and I won't go through that testimony, but I got one. And
all right.
all I say is this: if you have a medical malady, make sure you contact the City of Hope and see if there is some support that they can provide you, because I've gotten the best of care. I went Monday, when they first told me last week, I was in shock, and they were looking at the last 3 months of a PET scan. And then I went Friday for another PET scan, and they looked at the most recent one. So now I can personally say I saw it myself, right? But again, though, all I ask you guys to do is to take care of yourself physically. There's a lot going on. They don't even know where non-Hodgkin's comes from, and there is no so-called cure. So I've been in what's called a CAR T clinical trial, and that's what's pushed me into remission. And we'll probably do a session on that when I can get somebody from the City of Hope to come on the show. I'm Robin Billups. I'm the connector. I love this platform. And all my word for the day is vote. We have to get ready for the vote, because we are seeing too many things that are being taken away that we voted for historically. And we got to make sure that our people are at the table. And as Crystal say, you're either at the table or you're on the table, as being served up. And so I think voting is so very, very critical, and we'll keep talking about that. I'm looking so forward to this presentation, because again, we always try to talk about generational wealth. And I think that Mr. Matthew Gates is going to provide us with that wonderful insight. So again, I thank you guys for your prayers, and I truly thank you for supporting the community briefing, because this is your platform. Greg, I'm tossing it back to you.
All right, catch it. So today, Stephen, anything, or are you going on the back end as usual? You want to join us on the front part? Why not?
On the front part, I just wanted to, again, my name is Stephen Turner, and I also like to thank Dr. Karen Bird, who will be our guest next week, since I'm not here at the beginning. But again, back to you, Greg.
Thank you. Okay, so I didn't get a chance to tell anything about myself. I was kicking it over to Crystal. Crystal gone already? Yep, she's gone. Okay. So my name is Gregory Sneed. My company's Lifesaver Financial Services. I help my clients keep more of the money they make, and I do that through helping them build wealth. I'm also a personal financial coach and financial literacy trainer. So I firmly believe that when people feel better about their money, they feel better about their life. Today, our guest is Matthew Gates, and he is founder and CEO of In the Building LA. That LA is Los Angeles, not Louisiana, right?
That is correct.
All right, cool. Matthew Gates is a commercial real estate analyst, research manager, and thought leader with a proven ability to accurately identify trends across multiple asset classes and present those insights to investors, developers, and institutional grade clients. He's overseen the production of original research content aimed at helping clients better understand the supply-demand fundamentals impacting multifamily and office real estate valuations. As I mentioned before, he's the founder and CEO of In the Building. It's a multimedia platform working to build a bridge between real estate professionals and the communities that they impact. He was also with Doherty. Am I pronouncing that?
Doherty.
Doherty, yeah, okay, that's right there. And I noticed that I just the last there, real estate and commercial real estate agent. He had been with Remax Commercial, Cushman and Wakefield, a community investment intern with Boston Private Bank. Also experience with the Los Angeles Urban League as an undergraduate research. And let's see, and a number of different things before that. He has education from the University of Southern California in the Ross Minority Program in Real Estate. That's a fantastic program. Also REAP LA, which is a Real Estate Associates Program in Commercial Real Estate. University of California, Los Angeles, also known as UCLA. And he was with the African American Black Studies and Economics, got his Bachelor of Arts. Didn't get a chance to find out, as they say here in LA, where you from, if you were born and raised, if you're a native of Los Angeles, he'll share that with us, where you went to school. And without further delay, it's my pleasure to welcome to the virtual stage, Mr. Matthew Gates.
Thank you, Greg. I'm not sure if I'll be able to live up to all of that. And I forgot how much I've done. I've been here for a minute. So I kept getting older as you kept talking. So pleasure to be here. Incredibly grateful to be on the platform. I was telling Greg and Crystal at an event that we met a few months ago that this platform single-handedly kept a lot of business owners out of jail during the pandemic. And, and the legacy is obviously much deeper than that. But it's a pleasure to be here. Definitely incredibly glad to hear your news, Robin. And so, yeah, thank you. As Greg mentioned, the short version is I've been in the commercial real estate space for a little over a decade. I pivoted from retail when I was younger and went back to school as a non-traditional student at UCLA. And that's really where I started to kind of dig in and try to identify ways to solve the wealth disparity that we see now, and really trying to identify ways that we can kind of take our own destiny into our hands here in the community, and not be reliant on outside support. And so to the extent that we're able to do that, I started to, do my research and came up with commercial real estate as being the primary vehicle through which we can make that sort of change, and jumped into a career. So yeah, I've been, as Greg mentioned, I am the CEO of In the Building LA. I've been on that journey since 2019. I have a slideshow here. Let me bring that up.
And you said you did grow up here in LA, right?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I skipped right over that. No, I'm actually from Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay.
And grew up, we moved out here to Southern California when I was in elementary, went to high school in South Orange County, graduated from Mission Viejo. And then in 1993, I moved to Los Angeles. So I've been here 20 plus years, been here longer than anywhere else. This is definitely home. Everybody that I went to high school with, except for one, all fled behind the orange curtain after we graduated. So we've kind of been carving out a career here. So I am longtime South LA resident. My son is a senior at King Drew High School. My wife works here in the community. We are incredibly invested into this space and really wanting to see it become everything that it can be. So I launched In the Building LA in 2019. We are a digital media company. We really focus on the relationship between community and commercial real estate. I got into the space really for two reasons. First, I used to go to a bunch of community charrettes where either a developer or a community activist would be talking about commercial real estate. And depending on who was giving the presentation, the audience will walk away with the perspective that the project was amazing and it would be life-changing and there's nothing that could ever go wrong with it. You should just trust them. Or that single project was going to be the end of the Black community in Los Angeles. And the truth is somewhere in the middle, but I really could see the look on a lot of people's faces was that their answers just weren't being, their questions just weren't being answered. There was a bias and a perspective that was attached to an agenda from the presenter. And so when I launched In the Building LA, it was really trying to provide just objective news, trying to present unbiased information so that the community could make informed decisions about the projects that we wanted to see, the things that, the policies that we thought were in our best interest. And more importantly to me, in my journey through commercial real estate was really encountering a ton of really talented professionals who come from community, either here in Los Angeles or from across the country, who care about what happens in Black and brown neighborhoods, and who have an expertise that they've developed over, in some case, multiple decades, but were not a part of the conversation. And largely, most folks in the community didn't even really know that they existed, right? And so just kind of adopting the idea that, the belief that representation does matter. I felt that it was important that some of those stories be shared, that people in the community get familiar with the fact that there were talented professionals who could be a value add to the conversations that we're having about the future direction of the community, but also that some of those professionals who maybe were a little more disconnected with some of the day-to-day activity here in South Los Angeles or in Inglewood or Compton or other parts of the city, that they could get reconnected, right? That they could understand more intimately, they could hear from community about the things that we want to see happen here, the projects that we're interested in, the concerns that we have around, hot button issues like gentrification. And so really just wanted to create a space for those conversations. And so we launched the platform in 2019. Pandemic was both, it was an accelerant for us. It gave me an opportunity to really lean into the platform. and expanded, and really started to focus on broadening the conversation beyond pure commercial real estate, and wanted to introduce, more of an economic development perspective where we speak about uh, small businesses, and we share news and information in a more holistic way. So,
Hey, Matthew, can you put this on the presenter view? Because then that'll make the
oh,
pictures
I'm
a little
sorry.
bit bigger for us. That's okay.
From current. No, that was the wrong one.
I'm sorry.
Go back to. I was just about to do that, Robin. So play from current slide. Second icon from there. You go.
There you go. Yes, there you
Sorry
go.
about that.
Thank you. Now that's
So this is the website. In different pieces, we have just basic news. In one section, we have podcasts hosted on the platform as well. We also have a section called Professional Perspectives, where we provide insights from professionals who are out here doing the work, so that they can kind of share their more blog post content with our audience. The purpose, really, as I mentioned, is trying to inform people, right? I believe wholeheartedly that the key to unlocking the potential of people is unlocking the potential of the land, right? And those two things have to work together. And so really wanting to make sure that folks in the community had a better understanding of the dynamic ways that real estate, not just, I feel like we spend a lot of time in residential, but really the ways that commercial real estate can be transformative from a wealth perspective, but also impacts like literally every part of our life, right? And anybody who's lived in South LA for a significant amount of time realizes that the houses often are really beautiful, historic, have great landscaping, great aesthetics, but the commercial corridors that lead to them often don't match that, right? And so when we start talking about real estate as a vehicle for economic development, my belief is that we really have to tackle that issue first. That is the primary objective of the work that I do in working with small businesses and working with owners of commercial assets to be able to create real catalytic change that can be felt by the people. To that end, in 2021, I had the opportunity to do an article on the Soul Folks and Hot and Cool restaurants over in retail stores over in Leimert Park. That started a conversation that ultimately led me to the opportunity to broker the deal. For those of you who are unaware, in 2022, 4 retail tenants along Degnan who all shared the same building. It was bookended from Soul Folks on one side and Hot and Cool on the other. Those 4 tenants came together along with a development partner in order to acquire the building that they operated out of. The building was previously owned by sort of a notorious slumlord, BK or Botak, who used to own an arms depot in Leimert Park that serviced the LAPD, among others. The owners approached him in 2021 about acquiring their building. He shot them a ridiculous price. And over the next year, we worked to be able to help those owners acquire the asset at that ridiculous price. And so I say that just because for a few reasons. While the valuation of the building itself was probably 30% less than what they paid for it, what they are able to do now, what they're working on, and how they're using the space to really reimagine Leimert Park and create an economic development or footprint in one of the most historically significant locations in Black Los Angeles, it required for them to be able to pay that premium. What we were able to do was be able to pull together various philanthropic dollars and a $2.5 million grant from Supervisor Mitchell to be able to offset the markup and make the deal work from a raw numbers perspective. And so in September, we officially closed on the property. The deal itself was groundbreaking in that the county had never moved in the way that they had to help them acquire the building. That became what is starting to be a pilot program so that they can help other businesses acquire the properties that they operate out of. More importantly than any of the technical pieces, though, was the fact that this project proved that 4 business operators who didn't have previous experience working together, 4 Black men and a development company run by a Black woman, were able to come together, do what other people said wasn't possible, pool their resources, pool their social capital, pool their technical expertise to come together and purchase a building. That is something that does not happen enough in our community. There are not enough examples of that. Most of the examples, kind of going back to my love of history, most of the examples of that have been burned down or had a freeway driven through them, or they're just no longer standing today. And so it's super important, I think, at this moment in time, particularly coming out of pandemic, coming off of George Floyd, coming off of this social awakening and reimagining of what it means to own and occupy space here, that it was important that this model, right, be highlighted so that other people can follow, because it is repeatable, it is replicable. While not everybody may be able to get a $2 million grant from supervisor's office or from philanthropic dollars from Wells Fargo or those sort of things, the idea that 4 or 5 people or business operators can come together, share their collective financial capital and their and resources to acquire property, that 100% is repeatable. That is something that most other communities do. And because of our 450-year legacy in this country, is something that we have not done as much as we need to, but hopefully this is an opportunity for us to pivot and move forward.
Hey, Matthew, a quick question. That
Sure.
Lamert property, that's city Los Angeles, or is that county? I get confused.
Lamert
sometimes.
is city of Los Angeles.
It's city.
No, it is.
Yeah.
But it falls right in between. One part of Lamert is Council District 10, the other part is Council District 8. And so for that reason, sometimes the services or some of the challenges aren't that require a kind of a 2-district solution haven't been enacted. Maybe as
And you mentioned
smoothly,
Holly
as
Mitchell
smoothly.
as well, which was county. Yes, so I got thrown off
Yeah.
there. Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just a quote about the sale. In order for longtime residents to receive the greatest benefit, it's critical, right, that a community has, that an informed community wields proper influence over the changes that are coming. So how can real estate become an economic engine to create transformational change within our communities? I put this slide up. This is an article that we broke maybe 2 months ago or 3 months ago now, about West Angeles selling the old church along Crenshaw to CIM for redevelopment into a mixed use property. And I highlight that not to cast judgment on the decision to sell or the decision to sell to CIM. But when we posted this story, it was very clear that the community had lots of passionate opinions on both sides as to whether that was the value of this sale, right? What I think got lost a little bit in the conversation was the fact that by making the decision to sell to the company that they sold to, without placing any like key, I would say, stipulations attached to the sale. One of the most powerful entities in the community was unable then to enforce how the property was developed afterwards, right? So CIM hired in pre-development. First of all, this transaction began actually in 2019. They started working through entitlements back then. So this was not a new deal. It just that it finalized in April. CIM, in order to get through pre-development, like all development companies, hires architects, engineers, consultants to help navigate the city process, permitting process. Of the 7 major firms that they hired, none of them were Black owned. Of the 7 major firms that they hired, I can only find evidence of 1 Black employee working in the LA region. And to me, what was important about this is that when we have conversations about real estate, and there are a lot of really amazing conversations that have taken place over the last 3 to 4 years. Unfortunately, the passing of Nipsey Hussle, while a tragic personal loss and the loss of an innovator who was, I think, really on the cusp of doing some really dynamic things here in the city. What did come out of that was a heightened awareness around the possibility for individuals to buy real estate, buy the block, so to speak. And so whether it's through NIP or other social media influencers and platforms like Earn Your Leisure, MG the Mortgage Guy, other folks here locally, they have done a great job of raising awareness about commercial or about real estate. We typically stop the conversation around acquisition, around the dirt and the building. And as this project with West Angeles demonstrates, there are multiple millions of dollars that are spent before a shovel goes in the ground, before a building is demolished, before something new is constructed. And there's an entire pipeline that we need to be tapping into. There are Black architects, there are Black urban planners, there are Black and brown development companies, there are brokers, there are consultants, community engagement specialists who come from the community, who, in my opinion, need to start being included in the ways that real estate changes hands and in the development process. And so, a lot of this really, dovetails back into the work that I do in the building LA, and also into the brokerage work that I do with Doherty, where we've sold, almost $100 million in commercial assets between King and Slauson along Crenshaw in the last 3-4 years. But that's just the start, right? And so what we're really passionate about doing now, and the conversations that I have with the small businesses that I work with, is really trying to be intentional about tying in other community-based professionals, circulating those dollars back into the community multiple times through the entire project pipeline that it takes to build a structure like the one that will be popping up at Crenshaw and Jefferson.
Now, is CIM the same company that was looking to acquire the Crenshaw Mall, and there was a lot of community pushback from that?
Correct. Yeah, so CIM, major developer, they did make I think they were the first ones to get an approved offer in on the mall. There was, a ton of pushback that ultimately led them to dropping out. But they are also well-known, I guess, infamous for the gentrification and the development that they're doing in West Adams. So I believe they have something like 40 individual projects in the West Adams corridor. They've been, there was an article in the New York Times about some of the ways that they have been engaging with longtime businesses in that corridor, trying to encourage them, I'll just say that, to sell. And so there is, CIM is they're really good at what they do in terms of the development. They have a very robust team, but I wouldn't say that they've proven that they do anything that's ultimately not in CIM's best interest. And I feel like we're at a point now where, so there was before I got into commercial real estate, there was a generation of Black and brown professionals who did what they could to try to bring and encourage investment and development in the community. Usually that was met with resistance. There's, obviously the Michael Banners of the world and Curtis Fralins and Danny Bakewells, they can speak, and the Charles Corals, they can speak much more eloquently about the obstacles and roadblocks that they encountered during that time. But that was a real thing. I think now it's not difficult, or it's not as difficult to convince people that development in South LA and Inglewood is viable and needs to happen and can happen profitably, right? Metro obviously made a huge impact. SoFi Stadium and Intuit Dome and all the things that are going on in Inglewood have made that conversation much easier to have. All the activity around USC and Exposition Park, the redevelopment in Jordan Downs over in Watts, like all of these things occurring at the same time, Evermont at Vermont and Manchester, make it much more palatable for people to have a conversation around investment. The challenge then becomes not how do we get people to help redevelop and bring resources and infrastructure to the community, is once they come, how do we make sure that the money stays in community, that the money actually benefits the existing long-term tenants, and is not just a vehicle for displacement, market instability, and replacing long-term residents with folks who can pay market rates. At the same time, I don't necessarily think that affordable housing, 100% affordable across the board, is the solution. I think if we can get more people into the trades, if we can get more people into architecture and high earning careers, if we can really tap in and benefit and drive dollars through the Stocker Street Creative Project, when that's done to help Black creatives in the community, filmmakers, actors, producers, to be able to earn more, then we can occupy the market rate housing as well, right? And create more of a mixed income community.
We have a couple of questions in the chat box, but I want to make a statement.
Sure.
I spent 30 years in commercial real estate construction financing, and I started out in residential. My mission always is to help people understand what their options are. And
yes.
the sad part about it, early on in the early 80s, when I'm telling people that you can buy the building that you're occupying instead of paying rent or waiting on the guy to come back from New York who passes away and now the kids own it and now they're getting you to market rent. When you've been paying below market rent for 25 and 30 years, what did you do with the money? What did you do with the money? So part of it is this challenge of helping people understand the dynamics of how money operates. The other piece is real estate is a long game. Real estate always will be a long game. And to your point, all of these projects that you're talking about, they've been working on these projects 3 and 4 years. So the question becomes, some of the stuff that I wanted to talk about is, you know, let's ensure that we tell people, I'm loving what you're doing, but we need to help them understand that when they did the appraisal for the Leimert Park project, and it became below market, did we have a conversation with the MAI appraiser? You know, because they hired an MAI appraiser who probably came from Orange County, So it becomes a question of, at the minimum, we have to read. We have to read. Read your local paper, you know, talk to your city council person, talk to the county board of supervisors, go to the planning department, go to those planning meetings. And that means, how do we get people engaged? Because if they were further and deeply engaged, then they would know that, you know, Greg had a question about what is the status of the Barbara Morrison Performing Arts Center that is owned by a Black female and her guy, Tim Morganfield, who worked with Barbara Morrison. They bought that. They closed on that. And so they're repositioning that property. We all know the deficiencies and the disparity that has happened. And yes, I've done business with Chuck Cause. I've done business with CIM when they first came into the market, before they even built Hollywood and Highland. And so I have these experiences, and these folks know I'm a talker. I'm going to share information, but if you don't do anything with the information, next. So again, thank you for coming on to the community briefing and bringing some light into what some of these transactions are going on. Steve had a question. Can we as a community engage into the community, ensure that Black participation with the West Angeles project? Is it too late for inclusion?
I don't know. It's not too late for inclusion. I don't know. A lot of the projects that are coming up now have local workforce hire stipulations attached to them. Not all of them. The townhouses or apartments that are being built in Leimert Park right now in 43rd don't have that mandate, but a lot of the major projects do. So there's definitely an opportunity at the construction level, at the GC level, at the sub level, to be able to come on board and start to, at the very least, go talk to the people who are running the project, because as they have local hire commitments, they need to have people to go to. That being said, and you see this in Inglewood as well, I think the asks have to be done up front, right? We have to understand that, you know, and it's difficult, right? If you've owned a property, let's say you bought it in 1993 when I got to LA. From 93 until 2013, that property might have gone up 20%, 25% in value. From 2013 to 2023, it's gone up like 300%, right? In some cases, more than that. And so sometimes it's difficult to see something the way an outsider sees it, because it's always been the thing that you know it to be. It's always been a blighted corner or lot or liquor store or whatever else, where someone from the outside sees it differently, right? I say all that to say that what we need to understand, or where the shift needs to happen internally, is to understand that I don't necessarily have to see it. I just have to know that other people see it, and I'm going to start demanding market rate, market value, and start attaching stipulations to folks who want to work in the community, right? If I know that Stan Kroenke wants to move his team from St. Louis to LA, while yeah, there's certain concessions I may need to make in order to make sure that that happens, right? At the same time, maybe I can be a little edgier on some of the workforce requirements. Maybe I can push the envelope a little bit more on the ways that those entities have to reinvest into a public fund that makes sure that small businesses in the city are taken care of, or whatever the case. And that's not to slam Inglewood. It's just to say that that's a high profile example of ways that I think we need to be a little more aggressive at the negotiating table in upfront at the beginning when we enter the transaction, because people value the land. People want to be in South LA for whatever their reason is. So we have to make it work for the people who have been here. So
Well,
that
they value it strictly from the standpoint of when we all decided, a lot of folks decided, not we, a lot of folks decided to move to Riverside and Lancaster and Palmdale because they refused to purchase in South Central Los Angeles. They've lived in these houses forever. They've had businesses in these buildings forever, and it wasn't sexy to them. So I can go out there, commute back with my job and go out there and get a brand new house or what have you. The sad part about it is they're not thinking, to your point, they're not thinking about the economic value. The land value doesn't go away. You know, even if it plateaus for a minute, it's still going to have some upward trajectory. And, you know, it's a great point that's brought up in here. Someone said, you know, how do we fix this? And part of it is this kind of education that the community briefing brings to the table and introduces individuals who are willing to work with folks. You know, we always have, Bianca is on here every week. Bianca owns a business. She's always talking about what the opportunities she has available. She shared with us how she pivoted her company. You know, so again, the community briefing is not just to bring people on here and let them pontificate. The whole mission is take this information and do something with it. Yep. And so again, Dr. G has a question. Dr. Davis has a question. Is it too late to get engaged? Are we too far along? What about more or additional education and understanding from our community members? Mm-hmm. You know, I think one of the things that you said, one of the things that triggered for me when you said they got a $2 million grant from Holly Mitchell. You guys, those are your tax dollars. If that money is not coming out of her checkbook, those are your everything. Every time somebody gets a grant or a subsidy, those are your tax dollars being allocated to someone. Historically, they've been allocated to folks who get in line, learn the system, and get the money. And we just have to have a better, what I call stick-to-itness. Talk about that, Matthew.
Yeah, so it definitely is not too late. I would say the time is now. We have 5 years until the Olympics. There's going to be a ton more investment, particularly around infrastructure coming into the community. And you know, even if you say that all of Crenshaw is going to be redeveloped, well, what does that mean for Western? What does that mean for Slauson? What does that mean for Jefferson? Right? What does that mean for Vermont? Like, there's just so many pockets and so much that can be done that is definitely not too late, right? I would say that you know, I work with small businesses primarily to help them understand how to acquire real estate. In some cases, how to help digital companies become credit-worthy tenants. But then how to help successful leasees transition into ownership, right? On the slide right now, myself and my partner, Austin Curry, will be conducting a workshop unpacking all of that at the Urban League or through the Urban League on Wednesday, August 2nd. So feel free to sign up for that program. It's a 2-hour course that we really dive deep, or as deep as you can go in 2 hours, on how small business owners can position themselves to own. A lot of all of this conversation revolves around being early, right? Thinking ahead, planning ahead. If you were trying to buy a house, which is most people's frame of reference for real estate, you don't wake up in the morning, decide you're going to buy a house, and then go start looking on you don't wake up Saturday and then go start looking Sunday. you contact your bank, you get your financials together, you try to get pre-approved, you interview or contact several different agents, hopefully. While your cousin or the person, the family friend at the barbecue may be a great person, right? Particularly when you're dealing with commercial, do they have experience? Do they know what they're talking about, right? And if not, they're probably not the person to manage your commercial transaction, right? But the reality is, you're doing all of this homework for 12 months to make sure you're ready, so that when opportunity strikes, you're ready to go. A lot of the businesses that we've worked with, what we find is, whether it's a CDFI like LISC or Lendistry or a bank, US Bank or Wells or Chase, has a program that they want to help small businesses to get working capital, to get acquisition capital. When those businesses show up, they're not quite ready, right? Not that they're far off, right? But there is just some boxes you need to check in order to be ready. And so I would encourage everybody to be prepared for those conversations today. If you are intentional about wanting to recirculate your dollars, then make sure that your agent has relationships with Black architects, Black design firms. Do you have qualified, vetted contractors that you can lean on, that you trust can execute on time and at a high quality? Like those sort of networks you should be building now. And those are the kind of spaces that if we're not in today, we need to be in, right? We really need to encourage more youth to get into the space. Commercial real estate is one of the most lucrative industries that there is. It's also one of the least regulated from a like a DEI perspective, right? And so the industry is largely old white male dominated, right? There's, across the board, 4% of architects are Black, 4% of planners are Black, 4% of commercial agents, asset managers, like you can go down the list. And so we're just underrepresented, right? And so we need to encourage more people. I got into the industry in my early 40s, late 30s. We need to encourage more people, regardless of where they're at on the time spectrum, to get involved, get engaged. If you're not sure where to start, you can shoot me an email. I'm happy to point you to a resource, connect you with anybody in my network. The way I operate is, if I can't solve a problem, I'm a point you to someone that I believe can. And so either through In the Building LA or through Doherty Real Estate, please reach out if you have a question. And I'm happy to steer you towards a resource that can help you and your family benefit from the billions of dollars that are pouring into the community now, and that will continue to do so over the next 3 to 5 years.
That's excellent. Matthew, we want to thank you for your candor. We want to thank you for your, what I call relevance, because you're current in the market. And I think that what people tend not to do is they shy away from asking questions because that's a dumb question. Well, I'm going to ask the dumb question.
Please.
Because everybody wants to know, but they're concerned about, whatever they're concerned about. So again, thank you for your support. And the one thing you did not dig deep into it, and I think it's critical, is that minority program of real estate development at USC was started in 1992, and the mission that I graduated in 1997. The mission for that program was to teach people how to look at the overall real estate development process and go back into your community and utilize those tools. And so again, I truly believe in that program. There's been a lot of folks that have graduated from that program that are doing stuff in their own community. And then the other key thing that you said is the trades. We look at these projects and we see our brown brothers and sisters on these projects. That's because they went to school and got a trade. They went to school and got a trade. And you got to pass the drug test, and you got to show up on time. You got to bring the proper equipment for that trade that you're in. Again, there is plenty of resources out here to help people get there. There are so many resources out here to help people get there. So the mission is, let's tap into these resources and let's not keep them close to the breast. Let's make broadcast. And we thank you for broadcasting, you know, the process of commercial real estate. But real estate is king, period. I don't care what kind it is. Industrial, commercial, residential, land, all of that's critical. So Greg, we're going to toss it back over to you.
Stephen, who do we have next?
He did mention to us,
Dr. Karen Beard.
Yes, yes. Karen, you're on here. Put your camera on. Can you put your camera on?
Great information today, Matthew. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We'll reconnect soon.
And I think that, you know, and when we look at who sponsors this program, Sarah, you know, the BBA is a great resource for identifying minority-owned businesses, National Association of Minority Contractors. These are these organizations that are out there. There's the Black Doctors Organization. There's the Black Architect Organization. There are all of these professional organizations that would love to provide insight, information, guidance, and referrals. So whatever industry that you're in, as we move forward, if you could put those industry organizations in the chat box, because we're trying to build this resource platform for folks to be able to use. And again, Matthew, the other thing that you mentioned, and I think is critical, why wouldn't somebody want to become an appraiser? That's a great job. It's a great job. Work for a title company. You know, there's so many legal, you know, there's so many resources aligned with the real estate industry that you don't have to have a degree. Right. You just got to go get certified.
You know, one of the things that one of my mentors when I was an undergrad pointed out is that people tend to gravitate towards jobs that we see on TV, right? And that's, you know, probably one of the post-integration losses, right? Was instead of having all these careers represented on the same block, everybody could move wherever we moved, and so you didn't have that visual representation. But that's why we over-index into education, doctors, lawyers, and those sort of things. There are so many careers that people in the community do not know about in commercial real estate that are six figures at minimum, right? At minimum, yeah. And the trades, honestly, like there are folks who have zero college debt who make six figures a year after only working for 4 or 5 years in the trades. And we need more of our young people who are not college bound, right? Who know that they don't want to go to a 4-year university. We need to destigmatize the trades, and we need to encourage them to pursue that as a viable career path, because that's one where they can literally have a part in building their community, building their family, and providing for them. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak on the platform today, and you all have a great day.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that. My degree is in journalism, and I came here from the University of Missouri with a 40-hour job in graphics, I couldn't buy a job, fell into banking, became a residential loan officer, and the rest is history. You know.
Oh, I need to have you come write some articles for In the Building LA. You shouldn't have told me that now.
Yeah, I'm a deal junkie. I love real estate. I truly do. You know, and again, it's a part of everybody's natural life. It's just getting immersed in how do I benefit from that, right? We're living somewhere, we're paying rent somewhere, we've got a mortgage somewhere. When people say, well, I don't want a house, I don't want a mortgage, you're paying somebody's mortgage if you're renting. So you're paying a mortgage. It's just not necessarily in your name. So, you know, it's real estate is not something you can get away from.
Well, and as a business owner, one of your largest costs is labor. The other is your rent, and the ability to stabilize that, right? To fix that cost for the next 5 to 10 years is make or break for some businesses, right? If you look at the businesses in the community that have been operating for, you know, let's say more than 2 decades, most of them are restaurants. A lot of that is because they own the real estate. right? Harold and Bells owns the real estate. So regardless of what happens around there, Doolin's is now in the midst of a major expansion, right? They own the original space on 48th, but now they've bought 2 other parcels. So that regardless of what happens along Crenshaw, that no landlord can raise their rent and price them out of the market, right? And so that is like we have examples around us. We just need to lean in and tap in. And I will point back to the community model. One of the first things that I learned in real estate, in looking at deal structure in primarily the West Side, is that most apartment multifamily ownership groups are not individuals, they're collectives, right?
Yep.
You have 3 or 4 people who may be related, probably not. They may go to the same church, probably not, but they have the paperwork, right? They have a legal contract that lets them know if you put X in, you're going to get Y out, you're safeguarded. Do you want to buy this 8-unit building, right? Do you want to buy this 20-unit building? And so real estate at the commercial level is a group game. It is not a solo player game. And so I would encourage everybody on this call to start to think about the people in your network that you wouldn't mind going into some sort of ownership business with. Reach out to a professional and buy some property, buy something. Then you can decide what happens to it as you move forward.
Wonderful. Greg, were you going to close us out? You guys, we want to thank you for dialing into the community briefing today. We thank Matthew Gates for his knowledge and his wisdom and his resources and his invitation to join him on his program. Do visit his website and get yourself geared up for that. We ask that you help us to grow this platform. Please go on YouTube and subscribe. And again, I just thank all of our regulars, the people who dial in every week and share their insight and their information. And we'll see you next Thursday. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.